Thank you for accessing this video. This video explains Chapter 2 of Basic Water Supply Plan from the Manual for DPHE to support POSHWA on O&M of Piped Water Supply System. This video was created based on the training material used in the training of trainers for the PICMAC DPHE Phase 2 project supported by JICA. This module covers Chapter 2 of the manual, which has three main parts. The first is the Basic Water Supply Plan, covering key planning and design considerations. The second is Strategies for Effective O&M, covering how maintenance should be organized and implemented. The third is Limitation and Constraints in O&M implementation. Understanding these foundations is essential for DPHE officers who support POSHWA in managing their water supply systems. By the end of this session, you will be able to understand the following. Section 2.1 covers the key considerations for planning a piped water supply system, including planning and design criteria, daily water demand and supply, and basic system structures and treatment processes. Section 2.2 covers strategies for effective O&M, including the objectives and types of maintenance, rehabilitation, quality assurance, emergency response planning, and financial management. Section 2.3 covers the limitations and constraints in O&M implementation that POSHWAs commonly face in Bangladesh. Let's start with key considerations for planning a piped water supply system in a POSHWA. When planning a piped water supply system, 8 key activities must be considered. First, estimating the future population and determining total daily water demand. Second, identifying water sources and estimating available quantity through the design period, including lean seasons. Third, assessing water quality and evaluating treatment needs. And the fourth key consideration point is designing all the necessary components like intake structures, treatment plants, storage facilities, pipe networks, pumping stations, and fire hydrants. The fifth point is confirming land availability and electricity supply. Sixth, conducting financial analysis including depreciation. Seventh, ensuring compliance with environmental safety standards. And last but not the least, point 8 is establishing an organization for O&M. These 8 steps provide the foundation for a sustainable and well-functioning water supply system. Planning and design considerations. There are 7 key factors to keep in mind when designing a POSHWA water supply system. The design period is generally 20 to 30 years, with 25 years as the average. However, population growth in Bangladesh is not stable or uniform, and migration from rural to urban areas follows no defined pattern. Vertical housing expansion can also cause sudden local spikes in demand. For these reasons, review and replanning may be needed before the original design period ends. The service life of individual components varies depending on material type and the quality of maintenance. Civil structures have a longer life if built well. Pipeline lifespan depends on the type of pipe material used. Habitation patterns, per capita consumption, and drinking water quality standards are also critical inputs to the design process. Accurate population estimation is essential for determining water demand. Since growth rates vary across different parts of a POSHWA, applying a single uniform rate to the whole area is not appropriate. A ward-by-ward approach should be used. The most widely used method in Bangladesh's water supply sector is Malthus's population projection, also known as the geometric growth model. The formula is PP equals P1 multiplied by the quantity 1 plus R raised to the power of n, where PP is the projected population, P1 is the population in the base year, R is the population growth rate as a percentage, and N is the time interval in years. Selecting the appropriate calculation method based on the specific characteristics and development trends of each Porshwa is crucial for an accurate and realistic system design. This slide shows the water consumption standards used by DPHE for planning purposes. For domestic water supply, the per capita consumption rates are as follows. Porshwas at the Upzila level use 100 liters per capita per day. Porshwas at the district level use 120. And city corporations use 180 liters per capita per day. In addition to domestic use, water is also needed for commercial, industrial, public, and livestock use, as well as accounting for losses and wastage. The table on this slide shows the range and average consumption figures for each category. In practice, most Porshwa domestic supply plans cover all categories except industrial use, as most industries in Bangladesh organize their own water supply independently. All water supplied for domestic use must satisfy the Bangladesh Drinking Water Standard, or BDWS, at the point of consumption. This standard is set and regulated by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. The Environment Protection Rule 2023 defines 55 parameters under the BDWS. This slide shows some of the most important parameters. Key ones to note include total and fecal coliform, which must be 0, E. coli, which must not be detectable in any 100 milliliter sample. Arsenic, which has a Bangladesh standard of 0.05 milligrams per liter, it is stricter than the WHO guideline, pH, which should be between 6.5 and 8.5, and turbidity, which must not exceed 5 NTU. DPHE officers should be familiar with these standards, as verifying water quality against the BDWS is a fundamental part of O&M support. Daily water demand and supply. In an ideal urban water supply system, water is supplied on a 24 hours a day, 7 days a week basis. However, the hourly demand is not constant. It varies throughout the day depending on how water is being used. The demand curve shown here is based on general patterns from international cases, as sufficient measured data in Bangladesh is not yet available. The curve shows peaks in the morning and evening, with lower demand during nighttime hours. The maximum hourly demand is significantly higher than the average. In Bangladesh, most Porshwa supply is intermittent, typically provided 3 to 4 times per day. As a result, consumers must store water in their own premises. This also means the Porshwa must size its system to deliver the full daily demand during those limited supply windows at adequate pressure and quality. In the future, DPHE should work with research institutions to develop demand curves that reflect actual local conditions in Bangladesh. Basic structure and treatment process. The structure of a piped water supply system depends on the source water type and its quality. Some basic components are always required regardless of treatment needs. These include intake from groundwater or surface water, pumping, storage to provide delivery head, distribution networks, and household connections. When treatment is required, additional structures must be added. For surface water, the treatment process follows this sequence. Intake pump, pre-sedimentation or roughing filtration, aeration, pre-chlorination, coagulation, flocculation, intermediate chlorination, sedimentation, filtration, post-chlorination, storage, and finally distribution to households. The diagram on this slide illustrates this full treatment flow. When groundwater quality is already acceptable and meets the Bangladesh drinking water standard, full treatment is not necessary. In this case, the simplified flow is intake pump, post-chlorination, storage in an overhead tank, and distribution to households. However, post-chlorination is always required to maintain residual chlorine at the desired level in the distribution system. It is also worth noting that in smaller poshwas, an elevated water reservoir is a costly structure. In such cases, water is pumped directly into the distribution system, and the pump head is sized to deliver water to the consumer's premises. The drawback is that maintaining constant pressure throughout the distribution network is more difficult in this arrangement. Let us see now what are the strategies for effective operation and maintenance of a piped water supply system. The manual defines 9 minimum requirements or strategies for effective O&M. These are: A. Preparation of an O&M plan. B. Provision of required personnel. C. Capacity building programs for O&M staff. D. Availability of spare parts and tools. E. Preparation of GIS-based maps of the system. F. A water audit and leakage control plan. G. Maintaining MIS records including equipment history, costs, and service life. H. An energy audit action plan to reduce power consumption. And I. Establishing a sound financial management system. These 9 strategies together form the backbone of a well-managed water supply operation. No single strategy alone is sufficient, all must be in place for sustainable and effective O&M. Objectives of maintenance activities. The overall objective of O&M was covered in Chapter 1. Here, the specific objectives of maintenance are defined as follows. To bring infrastructure back to as new condition as much as possible. To prevent further deterioration. To enhance the sustainability of infrastructure. To prevent sudden failures. And to reduce operational costs. These objectives reflect a proactive approach to maintenance. Rather than waiting for things to break down, effective maintenance aims to extend asset life, avoid emergencies, and keep costs manageable over the long term. Types and classification of maintenance. Maintenance is a continuous process that is classified into 4 types. Routine maintenance is the minimum regular maintenance needed to keep infrastructure operational. The key principles are: do what you have to do now, do what you can do yourself, and do necessary repairs in a timely way while keeping equipment clean. This is day-to-day work that continues throughout the year. Periodic maintenance is carried out at set intervals. Examples include painting motors and valves after rust removal, replacing or repairing motor cables, and replacing pump impellers when worn. Emergency maintenance addresses unexpected failures that require immediate action. Examples include repairing a burnt motor coil or recovering and reinstalling a submersible pump that has fallen into a tube well. Corrective maintenance is needed when a system was originally designed with incorrect or insufficient data. For example, installing a new production well to meet demand that the original design did not account for. This type of maintenance often requires significant investment and may be treated as a development activity. System rehabilitation and reconstruction. Beyond routine maintenance, rehabilitation and reconstruction are sometimes necessary to restore system functionality. Rehabilitation includes repairing damaged infrastructure, adding new units to an existing system, for example, adding a chlorination unit to a surface water treatment plant that did not originally have one, and restoring a deteriorated component to its intended operational capacity. Reconstruction is when the cost of maintenance and rehabilitation is no longer economical, and the infrastructure must be replaced entirely with new construction. Understanding the difference between maintenance, rehabilitation, and reconstruction is important for budget planning and decision-making at the Parshva level. Criteria for selecting maintenance method. All maintenance work should be carried out for long-term sustainability. Poorly executed maintenance will simply need to be repeated, wasting time and resources. Before starting any maintenance, it is important to identify the root cause of the defect. When the cause is properly addressed, the maintenance result is stable and lasting. 3 steps should always be followed. First, prepare a list of possible defects. Second, identify the possible reasons for those defects. And third, select the appropriate maintenance method. Note that a single defect may have multiple contributing causes working together. The selected maintenance method should address all of them. Experience with similar infrastructure is valuable in making this judgment correctly. Stages of maintenance activities. Before maintenance can be implemented, a series of preparatory stages must be completed. Skipping any stage undermines the quality and efficiency of the work. The 10 stages are: preparation or updating of the asset inventory, priority fixation, preparation of the scheme and cost estimation, approval of the scheme and budget allocation, tendering, evaluation, and contractor selection, implementation of the maintenance activities, quality control, supervision and monitoring, measurement, bill preparation and payment, and finally accounting and auditing. This structured process ensures that maintenance work is properly planned, funded, executed, and accounted for, which is essential for building a reliable and transparent O&M system. Implementation approaches. Maintenance can be implemented through 3 approaches: engagement of a contractor, use of departmental technical staff, or outsourcing to non-governmental technical manpower. For routine, less technical repairs, departmental or outsourced staff can take immediate action to fix defects and prevent further damage. This is faster and more flexible than contractor engagement. For complicated repairs requiring higher technical expertise, an experienced contractor should be engaged. In this case, the public procurement rule, called as PPR, must be followed for the contracting process. Choosing the right approach for each type of maintenance is an important part of efficient O&M management. Quality assurance and control. Quality assurance and control of materials used in maintenance is critical. Using substandard materials leads to repeated failures and wasted expenditure. When a contractor is engaged, laboratory testing of materials may be required to verify quality. The cost of such tests should be borne by the contractor and included in the bill of quantities. For departmental work, quality control must be applied during the procurement stage. Proper maintenance methods must always be used alongside quality materials to produce durable, sustainable results. Supervision and monitoring mechanism. Maintenance work is carried out in the field by the technical staff of the Porsche Water Supply Division. Their responsibilities include ensuring that proper graded materials are used as per specification and that correct maintenance methods are applied. The manual emphasizes that repair work is technically more demanding than new construction. This is because repair must integrate with existing infrastructure that may be aged or in irregular condition. For this reason, continuous supervision and monitoring is essential, and skilled plumbers must be engaged for repair work. DPHE officers providing technical support should pay particular attention to this aspect when visiting Porsche water supply operations. Emergency response planning. Emergency response planning prepares the system to respond swiftly and effectively when unexpected incidents occur. Examples of emergency scenarios include natural disasters, system failures, water contamination, and cyber attacks on digital systems. The 5 key aspects of emergency response planning are as follows. Vulnerability assessment, identifying risks and weaknesses such as infrastructure damage, contamination risks, or operational failures. Procedures and protocols, establishing clear response steps covering communication, resource allocation, and restoration. Partnerships and collaboration, building relationships with emergency management agencies, public health authorities, and other utilities. Training and drills, conducting regular exercises so that staff can respond effectively in real situations. And resource planning, identifying and allocating personnel, equipment, and materials needed for emergency operations. Having a prepared emergency response plan significantly reduces the time and impact of any incident. Conducting water and energy audits. Water audit is a systematic process to quantify water production, water build, and losses, both physical leakage and revenue losses. The audit findings enable Porsche to prioritize actions that reduce losses and recover revenue. Energy audit is equally important. Energy charges can account for 30 to 50% of total O&M costs. A systematic energy audit identifies where power is being wasted and how consumption can be reduced. Efficient use of energy is one of the most impactful ways to improve the financial sustainability of a water supply operation. Both audits should be conducted regularly and used as inputs for annual O&M planning and budgeting. Financial and budgetary management. A sound financial management system is essential for the long-term viability of a water supply operation. Without it, even well-designed systems deteriorate due to lack of funds for maintenance and operations. Financial sustainability is achieved by controlling expenditure and increasing income. On the expenditure side, an annual O&M budget based on realistic estimates must be prepared. The level of O&M cost varies from town to town. It is mainly driven by staffing costs and power charges for pumping, with gravity-based systems having lower or no energy costs. On the income side, tariff collection and revenue management must be strengthened. This topic is addressed in detail in chapters 12 and 13 of the manual. Till now we have discussed different strategies of an effective operation and maintenance. However, there are some limitations and constraints as well. Limitations and constraints in O&M implementation. Three major limitations affect O&M in Poshwa water supply systems in Bangladesh: financial constraints, tariff policy and revenue collection challenges, and shortage of skilled personnel. Starting with financial constraints. With few exceptions, most Poshwas do not generate enough revenue to cover their own operating costs. There is a persistent deficit between income and expenditure, and government subsidies are required to fill the gap. Even with subsidies, competing priorities such as staff salaries, electricity bills, and other management costs leave insufficient budget for water supply O&M. This financial weakness is one of the root causes of deferred maintenance, which in turn accelerates system deterioration. The next, tariff policy and revenue collection challenges. In most Poshwas, water billing is based on household connection or pipe diameter rather than actual metered consumption. This is because water meter rollout is still at an early stage. As a result, consumers have no incentive to limit their usage, and consumption exceeds what is actually needed, then increasing production costs. Adjusting tariffs to reflect actual operating costs is difficult. Legal and local political conditions limit what Poshwa can charge. And even at current rates, collecting more than 80% of tariff revenue is a challenge. Local political pressures sometimes prevent authorities from disconnecting defaulting connections or recovering outstanding dues. Addressing these tariff and collection issues is fundamental to improving the financial sustainability of Poshwa water supply operations. Lastly, shortage of skilled personnel. Effective O&M requires adequate numbers of trained staff to manage production wells, treatment plants, reservoirs, transmission and distribution systems, and water safety plan implementation. Skilled staff are also needed for financial management. However, the staffing structure defined in Poshwa organograms is generally inadequate for these requirements. As a result, Poshwas regularly face a shortage of qualified personnel to carry out proper O&M. This gap is one of the primary reasons DPHE's technical support role is so important. And it is why capacity building through training programs like this one is a critical part of the strategy for improving water supply O&M across Bangladesh. This brings us to the end of Chapter 2. The key message of this chapter is captured in the closing statement of the manual. A sound operation and maintenance system, supported by adequate skilled manpower and a healthy financial situation, can offer a sustainable water supply system to the urban population of Poshwas in Bangladesh. Chapter 2 has given you the planning foundation and the strategic framework for O&M. From Chapter 3 onward, we will go into the specific O&M requirements for each component of the water supply system, starting with intake structures. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video will help you understand the manual better.